Okay, I think we're rolling. Sorry, we had some technical issues where uh, OBS just kind of decided to not work. I had it going set to streaming, but it was streaming at 0 kilobits per second. And before you go and start blaming Spectrum, it wasn't Spectrum's fault. It was OBS's fault. Why? I don't know. I did the old turn it off and on again, and that seemed to work. So that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, let's talk about 3D scanning. Last week we dived into some of the trends in 3D printing, and I was going to do an episode on the Stratasys desktop metal merger, but stay tuned. That's just going to be Wednesday's video instead. Um, I don't know if I'm the right person to talk about this for, like, I don't know, an hour and a half. So we'll do something that I do know a lot about that actually ended up coming out pretty good, talking about the business of 3D scanning. Next week, we're going to be doing this whole thing of, are you ready to start a business? Because we find that a lot of people want to take these hobbies and turn them into businesses, and they might not necessarily understand some of the BS involved in that kind of thing. So let's back up a bit and talk about 3D scanners. There are quite a few of them out there with pricing as low as a couple $100, or if you're an iPhone user, you've got likely if you have one of the newer iPhones, you've got a LiDAR 3D scanner in your pocket. It's not very good, but you've got it, right? So better to have it than not need it and not have it. So when looking at the industry of 3D scanning, a lot comes into play here. We've got scanners from all different walks of the world and different types of technology. The most common one is structured light, whether that is infrared light, so, near infrared, kind of invisible to the human eye, or visible light, similar to my Artec Eva and Artec Spider. Those are your standard structured light scanners. Those are where we're seeing a lot of movement right now, where you can go get a revopoint range for what? Freaking $600 or less, something like that. They're not expensive. And be able to kind of scan whatever you want. You've got a lot of opportunity there. And I don't know if I would say you need something better. It will come down to what your needs are. And that's the toughest one to determine. If you want to take a 3D scan and then 3D print it, I have some bad news for you. It's not that easy. In fact, it's really, really difficult. It's much more difficult than that. Oftentimes, you are going to get a mesh that is kind of close to what you need, and then you're going to have to, turn it into CAD. A lot of us are used to dealing with surfaces and solids, which is a CAD thing. That's a CAD terminology, surfaces and solids. It's great, except 3D scanners don't do that. They just don't do it. And while they might have a supplementary software that does it, the cheap scanners do not do this. And you will effectively be required to take that scanned model, put it into Fusion 360, whatever it might be, and then, and only then, can you design off of the polygonal mesh that the scanner has captured. And that takes a lot of effort, way more effort than you think. So if you want to just scan things to show what they look like digitally, I'm totally fine with that. But you really got to know what you're getting yourself into if you're going to try this whole world of 3D scanning as a business. Because that hidden trick of the software is the thing that will bite you in the butt every single time. Because if you don't know what you're doing there, knowing how to use the hardware is completely useless if you don't know how to use the software correctly. Also, apparently my hair isn't great. It's like higher on one side than the other. Jeez. Grant, come on. You're a professional. So Sashuda is asking, is photogrammetry technically a form of 3D scanning? It is. But to do it correctly, you need 30 to 60 cameras to start. They need to be on a rig and calibrated. And that would be for scanning people, objects, whatever. That rig will take you days to take down, days to set up, and probably a full day to calibrate, along with the supercomputers that you're going to need to bring with it to basically, capture, render, and assemble gigapixels of information. So, yeah, be careful with that. You can do it. You can actually get gorgeous scans with photogrammetry, but the whole walking around an object with a camera to take pictures of it, it doesn't work great. And unless you have a system to keep you a dedicated distance away from whatever you're taking photos of, you're going to have issues with accuracy. Even further, if your lens has any distortion in it, whether it's a slight fisheye or it's a crop sensor of some sort, you're going to run into even more issues. So be careful. I don't want to see people spend $100,000 on a photogrammetry array, because that's basically what it's going to cost you, to then only realize that they need 4 different people to run the stupid thing at $50,000+ a year each. When you could go get an Artec Eva, brand new at $20,000, but if you're going to spend the 20, go get the Leo for 30. You can buy them used on eBay for a lot less. Take that with whatever grain of salt that you want. Artec doesn't like you doing that, but meh. And then it's $1,200 a year for the software. A lot of these 3D scanning companies, specifically Peel 3D and artec, they are not hardware companies. They are software companies that happen to have an okay system of hardware. The Peel scanners are not bad. And I really want to look at the Peel 3 CAD, because the latest software that Creaform, who owns Peel, has done, apparently will just convert it to surfaces and solids. And if that's the case, that's a massive, massive foothold for Creaform and their system. Now, to get into a real Creaform scanner, you're spending $40,000, if you're lucky, plus software. So, be aware of that. And, yeah, the scanners are kind of dependent on your needs. The companies that I'd be looking out for right now, it's going to be revopoint, Shining 3D, and a couple of others. But I think revopoint and Shining 3D are probably the 2 best ones to take a look at. When we're able to determine what the needs are of our clients, right? We've talked about this before. Don't just go into 3D printing expecting that people are just going to be there to buy your stuff. They're not. They don't care. It's not their job to care. You need to show them that what you're making and what you can do has value. And if you can't, somebody else will. Be careful about that one too. You need to look at a scanner as a tool in the process, not as an answer to a problem, because they are not answers to problems. Oftentimes, a 3D scanner causes more problems than it can solve if you don't have the right back end of tools or people, or both, to help you get there. Because realize, you as a solopreneur only have so much time in the day, and while people might want you to 3D scan things, you probably don't need to. The average consumer doesn't understand much about 3D scanning, and they think it is just I take a few photos of it, it then miraculously becomes a 3D model that you can 3D print with, sub-micron precision. And they're wrong. But that's where the education bit of all this comes in. With structured light scanners, you will always, 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 always have some level of deviation. And for the most part, it's pretty big. Even in our artec Spider, the best it can do is 50 microns. And in the world of metrology, that's miles. 50 microns is about the thickness of a human hair. And to you and I, that's not that big of a deal. It might be a much bigger deal if you are someone who's trying to do a mission critical item. Again, we've talked about this in the past where understanding what your limitations are and what your risk tolerance is one of the most important things for you when you first decide to go into this whole thing of working for yourself. And sure, I could easily grab a camera. This has got a 55mm f1.8 on it. I know it does not zoom. That is the lens, right? And I could walk around, take lots of photos of something. But if any of them are a little bit wrong, if any of them are a little bit off, I've wasted my time. And the processing of that data is not something that happens very quickly. You gotta make sure that you're ready to process that level of data. Now, I talked about the business of 3D scanning on Maker That Money. The episode is linked in that description if you guys want to take a look at it. And of course, like the stream, subscribe if you haven't, all the things you should do, support us via Patreon, YouTube channel members, and PayPal, if that is your type of thing. And if you are in our Patreon Discord, we made some stuff yesterday. We put it in one of the food channels. We're going to be trying it live on the Discord as soon as I'm done with the podcast. So if you're in the Discord, hang out in the live chat when we're done, because Miss Amber is going to join me and we're going to eat some weird crap that we made yesterday. I don't ask a lot of questions. It's just fun. Anyways, the value of 3D scanning is that it can reduce a lot of your man time. What we find often when you're trying to replicate something, having a mesh that's pretty damn close to what you already need is really valuable. And if you have a software like Geomagix, where it can just take a polygonal mesh and convert it to a CAD package and like a step file, great, you're set. The problem is Geomagix, the cheapest option is about $10,000 a year. Welcome to the world of software as a service, and soon we're going to see a lot more of hardware as a service as well. 3D scanning has this same problem. Our artec EVA, $20,000 scanner, is $1,200 a year for software. $1,200 a year for software. For software. You gotta be careful about the software. Because when you look at some of these more affordable scanners, like the einstar or the revopoint range, they have free software. The problem is, they suck. Their software's not great. Now, apparently, Shining 3D did release an update to their software. I don't know if it makes the einstar usable to me. Right now, the einstar is a completely and utterly useless brick. It's a $900 brick scanner to me. Because it has such poor performance for RAM utilization, that scanning with it on a laptop with 32 gigs of RAM gives you about 2 minutes. And unless you're really good and know exactly what you're doing, 2 minutes is not enough time for you to complete a scan. When we use the artec EVA, I can scan for 45 minutes to an hour. And the only reason I have to stop is because the scanner starts to get too hot and its deviation starts to go up as it gets too hot. So, you know, something to keep in mind. Revopoint, their stuff seems to be good, but tracking is a very hit or miss problem for people. You either get great tracking or you get terrible tracking, and there's not normally an in-between. And what we see, especially when you're doing things like scanning people, right? With the world opening back up post-human malware, going to conventions like DragonCon and MegaCon and whatever, you know, Comic-Cons might be near you, and scanning people in cosplay outfits is a legitimate and real business idea. Then you have to do the printing. Well, we have a core design team that does ZBrush to clean up those 3D scans, then paint them and make them ready for full color 3D printing. Then they go into full color 3D printing. By the way, if you're looking to buy a full color 3D printer, you know, hit me up. We have one for sale. It's heavy. It will cost a couple $1,000s to ship it. So just be aware. Weighs about 1,100 pounds in its current, you know, configuration. So there is a lot of value. And we had, how many companies we worked with? We had like 8 or 9 different companies that just used us for printing and file cleanup. And they were really profitable. They made great money. But the thing is, they didn't use high-end scanners. Oftentimes, they would use the occipital structure scanner, like an iPad scanner. And they're perfect. Because when you're printing something that is 6 inches tall, that's normally 6 feet tall, some detail loss is not that big of a deal. So it is kind of understanding what your use case is. If you are trying to scan people to make minifigs out of them, then a revopoint range, Shining 3D einstar, or heck, an occipital structure scanner is probably all that you need. You don't need much more. But if you are looking to, be able to use the scanner outside of just at conventions, you'll need something with higher accuracy. Shining 3D just released a scanner that's really interesting to me. It runs about 12 grand, so it's not cheap. But it's got a feature, and I forget what it's called. One of the mods can find it and post it. I forget the name of it. But it has a feature where you click a button and you go back and you scan over a surface, and it uses a higher powered scanner to do that. So if there's something that has like a text detail, or you need to really hit this area with high precision, you click a button and it will enable the high precision mode. But because high precision means high data capture, you don't want to run that all the time. Just turning all your settings to 11 and clicking go is not always the answer. In certain areas, you might not need it. If it's just a straight panel with a plate on it that you need to take some measurements on, scan the panel at relatively low resolution. You'll be able to model it out in Fusion 360 pretty easily. But when looking further at things like, a plate with a lot of tiny detail on it, that would be a monumental pain in the ass. So don't do that. Right? So I believe that there is more of a use case than just simply, oh, I'm going to buy a scanner and I'm going to scan things and it's going to make my life easier. I wish that was the case. We look at it as a line item in the work that we do. Oftentimes, if it is a relatively simple thing for us to scan, we're just going to scan it. If it's really simple, I'm going to take some photos, some measurements, and just design it in CAD to begin with, because it might not be worth the BS. We really have to look at what the value that the scanner brings to the table. We work with some clients where we do custom fit orthotics, right? So foot braces and that kind of thing. And we have a few clients that we do that for. And that case is amazing for 3D scanning because we need to scan what your foot looks like in a few different positions. If you have one of the older braces that we've made, wear that. We'll see where your skin touches it versus where it's loose. And then we can put it in a ZBrush or Blender and just kind of clean it all up. So, yeah, there's a value to that. But again, you still have to have that skill. Looking at scanning objects, like a dashboard of a car, it's a very common thing that we get asked. You can do it, and we recommend that you do it. But to do anything with that model, you'll have to then put it into CAD. And so there are methods to do it, and I've been wanting to do a video on it. But I'm not the right person. I suck at doing it. Like, I've had a really, really hard time doing it personally. And while some of our staff are more than competent, I'm not. And since I'm the guy in all the videos, it's like one of those weird problems that we have. So, yeah, sorry. I would like to do better, but, there are just some things that I kind of suck at. And that is one of them, right? I'm not the best at that kind of thing. So what makes scanning so difficult? It's normally a combination of hardware and software. We're seeing that the hardware is getting way better, and that would be a prediction for me for this year. And what we've seen is that that prediction is accurate. So far, the hardware has gotten really good. Revopoint with their range scanner, Shining 3D with the einstar, Thunk 3D has had a few things come out. Creality with the CR Scan Ferret, which I have. We're going to be doing a live stream on that coming soon, so stay tuned if that's your thing. Maybe this coming week. I don't know. This week's already pretty busy for me, but we'll see what we can do. But it is something that I would like to do more often, is show scanners on the channel. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that occurs where the scanner becomes less and less valuable. And what the real value of the scanner is, it's that team. It's that team that you have of people, or the skills that you have that make the scanner useful to you. If you're scanning a body panel on a car, and let's say you need to reverse engineer a body panel on a car, you could sit there and take measurements all damn day, or you can scan the panel, convert it to a CAD file, and use that. Now, if you're going to be doing this hardcore professionally and you're looking to spend $30,000, $40,000 on a scanner, 10 grand a year for Geomagics doesn't exactly seem all that expensive anymore. So, yeah, you've got some opportunity where it is possible for you to be valuable beyond what the technology provides you. So remember that you might be the only one in your area offering it, but there might also be a reason for that. Take a look as to what, and we've talked about this so many times, the whole idea of having a target market. If you're going to jump into a business and say, hey, I'm going to do it, and you have no clue what you're doing, you are destined to fail unless you get lucky. And while spending $500 or $600 on a 3D printer, or a couple of 3D printers with how affordable they're getting, to then fail sucks, but you at least still have fun 3D printers you can mess with. Spending $40,000 on scanners and software to then have it fail is a kick in the balls that you don't want to take. I mean, maybe you do. I don't know what you do in your private life. But in your wallet, you probably don't. And if you are the type of person that does, go join our Patreon. So what really is the bare minimum? The bare minimum to me depends on what your need is as a business owner. Adding 3D scanning is not as simple as just, oh, scanner, work, money. There's a lot of question marks between all of that. And making your decision on what to purchase is really important. Now, thankfully, a lot of the more affordable scanners have free software, so download it and try it. Companies often offer 14 to 30-day return policies, so try it. If you don't like it, return it. And if you're looking at scanners that are sub $500, I would tell you to pump the brakes just a second and understand what you're getting into first. If you're looking to scan people, sub $500 scanners, probably all that you need. But if you're looking to do more metrology grade stuff, add a couple of zeros to that, then come back and talk to me. And if you don't have that kind of capital, then you got to stick to doing it old school or outsourcing to somebody like 3D Musketeers. We have close to a dozen scanners at this point. A few of them are actually metrology grade and carry legitimate certifications that cost me way too much damn money every year to get recertified. But it's part of the process and the system that we offer to people. Because it's really important, if you're going to do mission critical stuff, to make sure that your scanners are accurate. And you have a piece of paper that says they are. Because if you do things that are mission critical and you screw something up, you need to be able to fall back onto that certification and say, this certification claims the scanner can do this level. If the scanner did not do that level and we can prove it, that goes back to the company that certified it, not to you. If you use a scanner without certification for a mission critical job and screw something up, guess who's responsible? It's you. So you got to be really, really careful about that kind of thing, because it will be bad. Will be bad. To me, the bare minimum for a lot of times, something like a revopoint range, Shining 3D einstar, and I think if you're scanning people, the occipital structure scanners are halfway decent for it. Now, the nice thing about the structure, and the range for that matter, is that they can run on portable devices. Range can actually run on a cell phone. And then when you're done scanning, you can, either airdrop it or transfer it via USB cable to the slicer, not to the slicer, to the scanning software, and be able to edit everything there. on a more robust platform, being a laptop or desktop. The einstar, its value is that it has a singular cable. It actually transfers data and power through the same cable, and then right back toward the computer, it splits them off into two cables. I love that. I wish I was a fish. That my artec EVA did that, because having the two cables means they tend to get really tangled up. We have a cable for power and a cable for data. That means they get tangled up, and every 10 to 15 human scans, I have to stop, untangle my cords, and get back to working. Bit of a problem. So making money with 3D scanning can be straightforward, especially if you're scanning people. And we do a lot of scanning for sports teams, but we're known for it. We are known to be one of the scanning companies that goes out, scans sports teams for custom fit compression gear. We work with companies that produce the gear, and it's amazing. It seems to work well. And the cool thing is, those companies that make the gear are the ones that call us to go to the jobs. So if you are, or you know of, a company that does this kind of thing, that is looking to do more 3D scanning, let me know. Because our rates are pretty affordable, and we travel around the world. I don't care where you want to send me, just cover my travel. And the time. All that kind of stuff. So there's value to having those nice scanners. But you gotta be careful about how they're utilized. You've got a business case here that is very much about the process of converting something to reality. And that's a great thing. But if you're not educating the end consumer, you will run into problems. Once the end consumer understands how the technology works and where it is valued, it is very, very simple to make money with it. The clients that we have that understand the scanners, know how they work, and how to use them are the most valuable clients to me in the 3D scanning world. The people that call me, and I will continue to use this example because it's a great example, that want me to make a bumper for their S14 Sylvia for $300 do not understand the value and what goes into producing something. And while even the print alone would cost more than $300, if I have to scan an existing bumper with a $20,000 scanner and then convert it to CAD and all you want to do is pay me $300, take a hike, because it's not going to work. And if there's anybody that gives you that kind of quality part for that kind of money, please let me know who they are, because I'd like to hire them, because I can make them a lot more money. You have to understand the value of the services that you're providing and be able to clearly communicate it to your clients. If you can't do that, then you don't have a chance of selling stuff at the rates you should be selling stuff at. And pricing for scanners is a complicated thing too. Let's dig into the pricing a bit. So currently, all prices subject to change at a moment's notice without prior warning. 3D scanning with the artec EVA, really 3D scanning period, comes in at $250 an hour. Could I get good enough scans with a revopoint range? Yeah, probably. Probably could. But am I going to get $250 an hour out of it? Nope. So, I want to use the big boy. And I want to use the big boy for a reason. It looks good. It does great scans. The software is easy to use, has minimal problems, and while it is expensive, it is a streamlined, walled garden approach that works. You've seen me yell and complain and, get mad at Bamboo. Everybody loves when Grant gets mad at Bamboo. For valid reasons, I'll be very clear. Because I don't like their walled garden approach. Well, we don't have open source 3D scanners, so I'm not, we don't have any good open source 3D scanners, I should say. So I'm not really allowed to get mad at that industry. But what I can do is sit here and say, well, okay, why don't we look at what we're doing as an industry and look at where we can do better. It is always coming down to that software. And it's why we chose artec to be our scanner of choice. Now, I'm looking at others. I'm still keeping my options open. Because, yeah, $1,200 per machine per year. Or, sorry, $1,200 per software seat per year is very expensive. The fact that I can take... So, fun thing. 3D scanners don't produce a mesh. That's normally done on the software side. They get you points at distances. They get you a point cloud, is what it's called. And if you want to do more than that, you need software. The artec Studio software will let me generate that mesh live as I'm scanning. Now, it's nowhere near as good as when you do it on just the the mesh itself, when you do it on just the point cloud. But if I want to see what my mesh looks like or could look like before I'm done scanning and, waiting for software to do all of the things that it needs to do, then that is incredibly important to me. And they're one of the only ones that do that. See, if you're not able to see what you've scanned and what that looks like as you're scanning, you don't know if you've missed something until you've already started processing the data. And that's a pain in the ass. Because then to go back, scan a new surface, align everything, that's never going to be perfect. You start introducing inaccuracies into a scan where you need it. So what happens? You end up producing and delivering a subpar product if you don't have that kind of software. That is why that software matters to me, and I think it matters to a lot of other people out there too. It's why artec is such a big company. It's because they know what they're doing with software. So then, what is really the cheapest amount of money that you can spend to get into it? Again, depends on your business case. If you're looking to scan people, you can get in for less than $1,000. If you're looking to do scanning for real estate, an iPhone, you probably already have, and Polycam, and you're done. Doesn't need to be much more than that, right? You can do more, but we're looking at minimum viable product. If you're looking at scanning objects for reverse engineering, you're going to spend a couple $1,000s, and I'm thinking like 10 to 20 just to start. And then staff or, continuing education for yourself for training. Because again, you got to do that. You got to have that training. We've got some individual issues that I don't think are going to get solved anytime soon. And they all come down to that user functionality and software. And if you guys do have any 3D scanner questions, please let me know. Literally put them in the chat and we'll talk. We got some cool people hanging out. Amber's here, Ben Cox, Mr. MN Don, Ram Online, Zerno, Pez Liz is here. Hey, Liz. 3D Pine Labs, Chris Catlich, Shuda, obviously, Red/Ace, Mad Cat USA. Some really awesome people here. Not as many as I was expecting. I figured this was going to be a more interesting episode, but it was maybe because I forgot to change the title. Yeah. So, Incendium87 asks, you mentioned the revopoint range. What about the revopoint mini for detail? Worth anything? Well, I've tried. I have not tried the revopoint mini with the newest software. On the 4. Whatever software that they previously had, it wasn't even worth anything. That scanner was so bad. On the new software, I'm hoping it gets as good as range does. And if so, that mini is an amazing bit of kit. That mini is legitimately capable of 25 micron accuracy. Just, you can't move it. It has to be a turntable scan to get that level of accuracy. And even with their really nice dual axis turntable, we had so many issues with tracking. To the point of you have to print parts for it. You got to put like balls of tape and things that it can track because it does such a poor job of tracking the actual thing that it's scanning. And just, ugh. revopoint is an amazing hardware company that barely knows what they're doing about software, and the barely bit that they know is enough to get a functioning software, just not a really well functioning software. And I've talked to them a lot about this and said, look, you guys are producing amazing hardware and you're being kneecapped by your software. If you can't fix that problem, you're not going to have customers that continue to buy from you. I was on the beta team for Range, and, you know, seeing how Range was delivered to me and the quality of it versus the quality of it after the newest software, yeah, I probably should give my Mini another go. I just haven't. Looking at the einstar, because we have a couple of people here that have an einstar. Motiform Prototyping and Jonas E. Both have an einstar, and I think that they're a great scanner, except they need so much RAM that it doesn't make sense. You have to spend more on the laptop for the einstar than you spend on the damn scanner. And I've got a bit of a problem with that. It's just annoying. Jonas E says, I recently bought an einstar and I will be trying to make money off it. At the moment, I'm building a part for a BMW E30 M3 that will allow me to reproduce an aftermarket $200 part in a 13-hour print time. If you're charging any less than $150 for that, you're not making enough money. Just so you're aware. Jonas E says, I already had a $1,400 laptop and I upgraded the RAM to 64 gigs. And if that was my only experience with scanning, I would say, yeah, just put 64 gigs of RAM in it. But when my $20,000, my $25,000, and my $60,000 scanner don't need more than 32 gigs of RAM, I don't think that my $900 scanner should need more than 32 gigs of RAM. In fact, my EVA can run more than fine on 16 gigs of RAM. That's it. Doesn't need more. And, yeah, like, yeah, I don't understand why out of all of my scanners, it's the cheap ones that need a better computer. Not the expensive ones. Expensive ones don't give a shit. It's the cheap ones that need it. That is stupid. That is absolutely stupid and should not be a thing. And revopoint, or sorry, Shining 3D, doesn't care. I asked them about this. They don't care. It is on their roadmap. And I asked them, well, when? And they said, eventually. Well, that doesn't work for me. I'm not going to spend $150 on RAM for one scanner. I'm not going, and that's why I have one. The einstar is sitting next to me. And I have never done a video on it. Now, I paid for it. I bought it with my own money. But I've never done a video on it because I can't use it for more than 2 minutes. And I don't want the video being me laying into the software side when the hardware side of the scanner is actually pretty good. It could viably give my EVA a run for its money. But because it can't run like my EVA can run, it can't give my EVA a run for the money. So it doesn't matter. Jonesy says, I mean, it's a little weird, but I have to say it did actually work with 16 gigs. I scanned the rear half of a motocross bike with 0.2mm accuracy. I had a very long scan as well. Maybe their latest software solves some of these issues, but some of the issues that we were running into with the Shining 3D software is that it was left in dev mode, and it was never optimized for performance. So, yeah. I find that as soon as I start scanning, I have a Ryzen 3750H, 32 gigs of RAM, GTX 1654 gig. I can literally watch my RAM climb up and up and up until it hits 100. I have never hit 100% RAM usage. And what happens is your entire computer locks up because the OS is out of RAM, your software is out of RAM, so it's crashing, And when Shining 3D was live with me on my computer, they have the ability to log in if you give them access. They got kicked off. And they said, yeah, that is a problem. I said, you don't say. And again, while I don't have a laptop with great specs, it's a 4-core, 8-thread, it works just fine on over $100,000 of artec scanners. Is it the fastest? No. But it can run my artec EVA at 15 to 16 frames a second. And it maxes at 16 frames a second. And when I turn on the, what is it? Oh, I forget what they call it. Like when it's live meshing, when it's doing the live mesh, it drops to like 12 to 13 frames a second. That's plenty fine for the money. That's a big deal to me. And so this 5-year-old laptop works great. I don't want to have to spend all this money on a laptop for a $900 scanner. It seems a little bit odd. I think others would agree with me on that one. Speaking of RAM utilization, my computer's being a little bit weird. Why are you being weird? I have no clue. Okay. RAM Online says they now they show new YouTube videos taking a phone, make pics, they upload it like a 3D scan. Can't be so easy. What's the difference? Accuracy. It's all about accuracy. Polycam, you can take a bunch of photos, and they'll turn it into a 3D model. But ask anybody that has done a Polycam scan to show you the raw data without the texture on it. It's not good. And while you can get good by taking your time, using a LiDAR scanner with an iPhone, particularly the front-facing camera, because that's where the LiDAR's best, you will get a good quality scan. But in the amount of time that it's going to take you, and the fact that you're using a multi-$1,000 computer or a multi-$1,000 phone to do it, you might as well just go get a decent hand scanner as well. So let's see. Motoform's got a 7700 HQ, GTX 1050, 16 gigs DDR4. Then maybe they're not optimized for Ryzen. I don't know. Now, I have not tried my einstar in like 4 months. And I was told they just released a new software at the end of March. So maybe it's time to break it out again. I don't know. Friendship Light says I love me a good hand scanner from time to time. Well, whatever you do in your free time is between you and yours. I believe that we have an opportunity to see some amazing stuff come out. And there is really, really, really amazing software available. But you have to pay for it. And the cheap software that comes with the cheap scanners sucks. Shotgunner5609 is asking what that scanner costs. I'm assuming you're asking about the einstar, $900. I think I got mine for $800 because I got it on the pre-order. Now, cool enough, there is actually an office of Shining 3D local to me. They only have a couple offices in the United States, and one of them is like 30 minutes from me. And I've been there. I actually have a stack of business cards from them. But that office doesn't do a lot of scanning. They focus more on the dental side of things. I'm trying to work with Shining 3D, like, as a content creator. Because I think that we can offer a lot of value back to them as a company. Because there aren't a lot of people showing their scanners. And even further, they're not comparing them. And as much as companies don't like to do that, you really need to. Like, I got yelled at by RevoPoint for comparing the range to my EVA. They said, that's just not fair. I don't care if it's not fair. I am putting it up against the industry standard for high-quality hand scanners. And if you're telling me that you have a high-quality hand scanner, then I'm going to put it up against the industry standard of high-quality hand scanners. Why? Because I own one. And smoke them if you got them. That's what I say. Shotgunner asked if I tried running it on a non-AMD processor. No, because I can't risk a crash on any of the other computers that we have here that have non-AMD processors, right? If I crash the PC in the garage, which would be on my standing set, anything that I'm doing out there dies. If we crash the editing PC, all the work that we've been doing could be corrupted. Same thing with my personal PC. I'm not doing that. So yeah, it's Ryzen should handle it just fine. It should be. But maybe they're not optimized for it. I don't know. Looking at a business case, though, you can make a ton of money with scanners. But it does take quite a bit, right? It does take quite a bit to get to a point where you feel a little bit more comfortable. Start with some of the more affordable scanners. It's okay. I would not look at anyone and say, oh, you're not using an expensive scanner. I'd say, dude, you found a way to do this with a cheaper scanner. Show me how you do it. I want to learn more. Maybe it is. I'm hardware limited. Maybe it's a software limitation. Maybe it's a processor thing. And I'm certainly, again, not going to buy a brand new laptop for a $900 scanner. That's not a me problem. That's a them problem. Because I already have one that works with scanners that cost more than 20 times that price. So, like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's me just being a bit of a pain in the ass on that, where I don't believe that I should have to adjust for a company's downfalls. Instead, I believe that I should be lifted up by their successes. The fact that I can still run an artec EVA at 16 frames a second on a 5-year-old laptop is insane. I did not expect that. I said, well, let's try it. If it works, we don't need to buy a new laptop. And it worked. So we didn't need to buy a new laptop. Run what you brung. And the nice thing is with some of these more affordable software, or some of these more affordable scanners, their software is free. So it's really easy for you to put it on 5 or 6 computers. I can't do that with the artec software because it is MAC address locked to the machine, which sucks. But that's life. And there's nothing that I can do to change it. So what happens then when you want to take that step up from these $800 to $900 scanners? And again, they're still good. When you want to make that jump to a professional tier or professional class scanner, you often really have to just send it. And I hate that because there's really no good option out there other than just send it. I don't like it, and I know that a lot of other people don't like it. Because you do have to just take a jump and a leap of faith in a company that you don't know who they are or what they do. And, yeah. It's not great. It's not great. And if you have found an option that kind of solves all of your problems, let me know in the comments because I want to experiment with more scanners on the channel. 3D Maker Pro is supposed to be sending us some stuff, but I don't know what's happening with that since they haven't reached out to me in a little bit, so I don't know. They make the whale, they make the mole, they make a couple of other scanners, and it's the same thing. I hear the same thing over and over and over again. The hardware is great, the software is bad. The hardware is great, the software is bad. The hardware is great, the software is bad. So what can we do as consumers, or even if you can program? My God, I mean, look at the hole that is in this industry right now. If you can build a software that just works with basically any scanner on the market that solves these problems, you have a profit driver for your business. I just can't program, so I'm not the person for that. It's tough. Ben says, if you're talking a $19,000 plus difference in the entry price plus $1,200 per year software, that leaves a lot of scope for the laptop. If you can get the scanner for $1,000 at a $2,000 or $3,000 laptop to produce similar results, then that's a good deal. That's fair. But that only matters if you have the $19,000 scanner already. If you don't have the $19,000 scanner already and you're just getting into scanning for the first time, having to spend 3 times the price of the scanner on a laptop isn't such a good deal anymore, right? It's like, well, then why is the scanner so cheap? Why don't we make the scanner a little bit more expensive and make it run on easier to use hardware? And yes, all I have to do is add a 64 gig kit of RAM into my laptop, but it only has 2 DIMMs. And that means I gotta buy a 2x32. And they're still like $200. Maybe they're $150. It's more than I'm willing to spend for the fact that only one of my scanners needs it. It just seems like... It seems like not a grant problem. I don't know. Because none of my other machines are going to have any benefit from more RAM. No benefit at all. It's not going to make them run faster. It's not going to make them be more efficient. It's not going to make them do anything else. And like Red/Ace says, we need to get software engineers to make the light burn for 3D scanners. That would be cool. But I think the problem that we run into is that there's not enough people out there that utilize scanners on a day-to-day basis, that the need for a software like that exists. And the price that you'd have to charge would be pretty high. Looking at the price of artec software, if that software could just be used with other scanners, I would recommend that software all day long. I'd rather you spend money on good software than a better computer to handle bad hardware. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, though. Let me know what you guys think. Because, yeah, that one's, yeah. I don't know the answer. Shotgunner 5609 says, I think that's a fair point, Grant, but think of all the Chrome tabs you could have open. I don't even have 64 gigs on my personal, like, desktop rig that we use for streaming, for Fusion 360, for all the work that I do on YouTube plus the day job. Only has 32 gigs. That's it. And I don't really ever use that laptop for anything other than scanning. Because if I'm going to play games, I'm going to play games on my 1080 Ti and 10700K rig. That's an 8-core, 16-thread processor and a GPU with 11 gigs of VRAM. Not the 4-core, 8-threaded, 4 gigs of VRAM GTX 1650, right? That is a purpose-use, single-use machine. Jonas, he said, I got a Crucial 2x32 gig kit for €130. He's got to say, however, Fusion 360 also really eats RAM. I have already seen 40 gigs of RAM being used by Fusion. I have never seen that, but maybe your designs are, you know, hardcore compared to what mine are. I don't know. This is why we have engineers. I don't do a lot of crazy design work. Quite frankly, whenever Fusion gets over like 8 or 9 gigs, it seems to just stutter too much that I can't use it. So, yeah. Also, it's absolutely ridiculous that Windows 11 with no Chrome or Spotify uses 8 gigs idling. And that's why I'm not upgrading to Windows 10. I'm sorry. Upgrading to Windows 11. Eskimo says Fusion can literally run on a potato. But can it run Crysis on a potato? That's the real question. If I can put Doom on a Flipper Zero, then I firmly expect better. I think it's just going to take consumers really looking at scanning as more of a processed base to a solution rather than a solution itself. We see a lot of people buying scanners and getting really disappointed when they don't just create perfect one-for-one copies. And it continues to baffle me how that level of education does not exist in this industry at all. And unfortunately, I'm not intelligent enough to show you how to take a model and make it into a CAD model. I've been trying. There is 4 hours of footage of me working to try to do it, and about an hour of me getting real pissed off trying to do it. And until I can get it to work well, we're never going to show it on the channel because I don't feel confident. Now, maybe we bring one of our engineers on, but not many of our engineers want to be on the channel. They're engineers. They like being engineers. That's where they want to stay. And so I believe that if you're going to spend money, yeah, go put more RAM in your laptop. If you have a laptop and you already have something that's good enough minus RAM, spend the $100 in RAM. Spend the $100 in RAM. If you're going to be moving a desktop around, why? I should get my einstar out, but I just really don't want to. It's a nice scanner. It's a really, like, when I can get it to run well for those couple of minutes, it's so nice. And the processing is pretty good too. So Shining 3D knows what they're doing. Revopoint knows what they're doing with hardware. If we could bring a software company to market that would solve these problems, you'd have a lot of money coming in. I think. I think you would. I could be wrong, but I think you would. So if that's your thing, let me know. Because I'd kick some money to it. Because, you know, other than having a metric ass load of scanners, we have close to a dozen scanners at this point. You know, I can't really contribute anything on the coding side. So, yeah. So then how do you make money? How do you make money with 3D scanning? Well, to me, we have the two different kind of big markets, right? The reverse engineering side of it, prototyping side of it, and then the anatomical side of it. I find that it is much easier to make money scanning humans than it is scanning parts. And the reason is because it doesn't need to be accurate to scan a human. When we're scanning for custom fit compression gear, we'll often hit 1/4 millimeter. But if your clothing needs to fit with better than 1 millimeter or 2 of accuracy, just eating too much salt or not enough salt will keep your clothing from fitting. This is compression gear. It's stretchy anyways. So that level of accuracy is not that big of a deal. Losing 0.5 millimeter over someone that is 6 foot tall or 2 meters tall, and then shrinking them to 6 inches or 150 millimeters, it doesn't matter. Your printer is not able to produce that level of detail at that size. I don't care how good of a resin printer that you have. You cannot do that. Our average human scan on an EVA will be 55 million polygons. 55 million polygons. The average human scan with an einstar is about 5 million to 8 million. And the average for a revopoint range, somewhere in the range of 3 to 7 million polygons. So we're getting an order of magnitude more polygons. That means we get more detail. Period. There is no way around that. And sure, if you got scanned at the East Coast Rep Rap Festival last year and you still haven't emailed me, email me. I've got your files. But if you still want to print it, you have to decimate it and reduce that polygon count. Now, what we prefer to do, and it's what artec Studio allows me to do, is decimate in the program with an adaptive style that will look at things where it's flat. Okay, you could remove a lot of the detail where something is flat. It doesn't need 500,000 polygons on a flat surface. Turn it to like 30. You're not going to lose any detail, but it leaves all the polygons for the face and that kind of stuff. And I think that's where a lot of that value comes in. A lot of the other softwares don't do that. They just literally do what a decimation actually is, which is where it takes 1 of every 10, right? Now, you can, of course, do reductions inside of slicers, like Prusa Slicer will let you do reductions as low as you want, which is very valuable if I forget to do it on the artec side. But even then, you lose some of that detail. So it is really, again, coming down to that software. But even so, a 4 million polygon person that's only going to be 6 inches tall, you're not losing a lot of detail here at all. At least I don't think you are. To me, there's not a lot of detail in models that size. And especially when you look at these powder printers or even full color polyjet, like a J750, J850, or even the J55 from Stratasys, they're not really able to produce that level of detail because either the powder has a thicker, like physically thicker granular size, or that the liquid resin used in a polyjet process can only be so accurately dispensed. Yeah, you run into some weird problems. So how do we solve all of this? Well, you have to look at your pricing. If you want to charge big money, you gotta often spend big money. Because I'm sorry, if you walked into a room with a revopoint range that's like this big, and you're charging $1,000 to scan a few people, they're not gonna, I don't care what the end result is, they're gonna feel like they're getting scammed in that exact moment. But if you do it with a really nice scanner that has the dog and pony show, right? You can realistically charge more. And I know that that's stupid because that is all about perception. It's not about the quality. I could have a bad scan and the EVA did a bad job and I would have to go back and fix it. You could have the same thing with the range or with the einstar or with something else. And the results could still be the same. But the process behind it is all about how it's perceived to the end client. If it doesn't look like something that's expensive, then they're not going to pay you money for it. If you bring a revopoint range, a $700 scanner, to a job that's $1,000, they're going to ask you how expensive that scanner is. And you can tell them you don't want to tell them. Then they're going to probably take a photo of it and just go look it up themselves and realize that they just paid you more for the scanner than for your time. And a lot of you might say, well, Grant, that's business. You're right. It is business. And there might be a lot of extra work that you're putting into it. But it's not how you build relationships. There needs to be a value brought into it. Now, not only do we have good scanners, I've worked with a lot of professional sports athletes before, and I understand what it's like. I will make jokes. I know how to communicate with them. I will let them ask whatever questions they want. If they want to do a full body scan rather than just, certain areas of their body for the clothing. We do that kind of stuff and we don't charge extra for it. Because part of that starts to really come into the experience around the entire process. That's a big deal. What I would like to see is if you are going to make money with 3D scanning, that you are also charismatic. You kind of have to be. When someone is trusting you with something that is either very important to them or to replicate, an object or a body or something, they need to feel comfortable with you as well. And so to me, the best piece of advice for making money with 3D scanning has got nothing to do with the hardware or the software. And it's got everything to do with you. Remember the 2 rules in life and operate in rule number 1, which is don't be a dick. If you operate in that rule and you are nice to people and you are friendly and you talk to them, you will end up in a use case where people appreciate you just a little bit more. And that appreciation and that friendship goes a long way, especially when it comes time to be able to talk about the thing that you just did. Because oftentimes with 3D scanning, NDAs are involved. Why? I don't know. They're always involved more in scanning than they are in printing. Maybe it's the, secrecy of the project or something like that. But it is often a real pain because you can't talk about the cool stuff that you do. And with the value of the YouTube channel that we have, companies are now totally okay with us talking about it because they get free advertising because of it. And well, that lets me also advertise what we do here. Because otherwise it's kind of hard to talk about what you do if you can't show what it is that you do. Okay. Sorry. I got pinged in something. So. All right. So, let's look at the money. I think that a lot of people can get away with making a pretty successful 3D scanning business on $900 scanners. I really do. And had the einstar and range and mini and a few others been out when I was getting into high-end scanning again, I might have pumped the brakes a little bit. Because I've spent well over $100,000 on scanners. I can bring $100,000 scanners into the picture. I'm not going to, because I don't like moving the artec ray unless I'm getting paid to. Because that's a $60,000 scanner on its own. But it's capable. And it can scan a 110 meter radius. And at 110 meters... it is less than a half-inch worth of variance at 110 meters. Sub 50 meters, it's good under a millimeter of accuracy. Sub 30 millimeters, sub 30 meters of distance, it can do sub half a millimeter. And you might say, well, Grant, that's a lot of inaccuracy. I'm scanning 180 feet in a diameter. So it's, 90 in each direction, right? Like, come on. That's pretty damn... Find me a professional dart player that can hit less than a millimeter every single time at 90 feet. And I'll find you someone who's cheating, because I don't think it's possible. That's where that kind of stuff matters. But for the average person, you're not scanning buildings and accident sites like I am. You're scanning people. You might scan an odd car part here or there. You might just scan some stuff just for shits and giggles. But when you look at the business case, it's pretty much the same thing all the time. I don't know why. It's people and car parts. Those are the two huge markets for 3D scanning. So if you happen to be a car guy, or a car gal, or car something in between, or nothing at all, a scanner can really add value to your business. If you don't know how to design, I'd start there. Then look at doing the scanner. If you know how to design, but you don't have a great computer, okay, do some design work. Good custom-built computers don't have to be very expensive. And it's the thing I love about these cheap scanners. Their software is free, so I have the Shining 3D software on my desktop, on my laptop, on the scanning laptop, on the editing on the PC, out in the garage. I've got it everywhere because it's free. It's great. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And while you do need a computer that's got some cojones behind the hood, especially to make sure if you're running these cheaper scanners, you gotta look at this cost-benefit analysis. If you're looking at a sub-$1,000 scanner, spending another $1,000 on a laptop might hurt you, but that laptop will continue to work as you get to higher-end scanners. There's value. Now, I will give you guys that have lasted this far a tip. Just the tip, mind you, and only for a minute. One of the best things that you can do for your scanner, mount a camera on it. We use these Sony action cams because I can get them relatively cheap used. But you can use a GoPro, you can use an old cell phone. Mount a camera to your scanner. The reason is, the camera will capture things that sometimes your scanner won't. And instead of having to go back frame by frame by frame to see what you've missed and to try to find a way to reproduce it, you can just look at your video and see where the scanner missed, what it looked like, take a screenshot, superimpose it over your model, and then be able to digitally add in what you need. It is the dumbest thing that we do that makes the most difference in the work that we do. Duff asks if there's anything out there that would allow scanning from a drone. DJI actually already has this built in. You can run a pair of DJI quadcopters across a surface, and because they're GPS locked, you can use their two cameras to triangulate a position. That is often used for doing terrain scanning, like if you need to scan a site model of something. It's not often that we see people scanning real full-size buildings because it's complicated. And if it's a big building, it's in an area where you probably can't fly a drone anyways. But yes, there are ways to do it. But if you are trying to, scan a building in a big city, getting a GPS lock in there is really complicated. So, something to be in mind of. Eskimo asks, what about 3D scanning for the purpose of digital archiving? Sounds like a useful service with a low investment cost. Yes, and that is something that we are looking to do. However, your level digital archiving and mine will be very different. We have an artec spider capable of 50 micron accuracy, and we are going to be working with a local museum to digitally archive everything. Now, I'm going to give them 1 day of my time for free so that we can film it and give you guys a really cool video of Grant wearing white gloves to handle, like, actual real things. Like artifacts and shit. Like, really, really cool stuff. And we're going to have, like, an entire crew there with us. That's going to be a crazy day. Fun day, but a crazy day. And you could do digital archiving with a lower quality scanner, but you're not going to pick up some of that detail. Now, our goal is for more like ADA stuff, sharing across other museums and all that. But if it is, hey, I've only got this thing for a little bit, I want to archive it, and I want to save it. If you're a data hoarder, yeah, 3D scanner can be amazing. Things like, we had someone that wanted me to scan a lawn gnome. Why? Because that's what they wanted. They wanted a gnome scanned. Well, I asked why. Something's not happy. Am I still streaming? Did Chrome just crash on me? It did. Hold on. Crap. Hopefully I'm still streaming. Chrome just crashed on me. I think I'm gonna have to redo it. Yep, probably will. Give me just a second. I'll be right back. Hopefully it doesn't kill the stream, but if it does, there's not much I can do about it. I hate when this happens. Give me just a second. I'll be right back. I haven't been pinged in the Discord yet, so something tells me I'm still alive. But I can't tell if I am. So, yeah. Sorry. Sorry about that. Oh, let's see. Are we still live? Yeah, apparently we are. Well, cool. Thanks for hanging out, I guess. Yay, computer problems. Yeah, now I'm getting pinged in my own Discord saying I'm still alive. Yeah, I get it. I'm now back on. So we're good. I know. I'm back again. All right. Well, hey, glad you guys enjoy my misfalls and pitfalls and that kind of stuff when it comes to streaming. Oh man, I've lost a lot of the chat. Let's see. Ben says we have local emergency services and police forensics that do site scanning from drones to reconstruct scenes. Yes, that is a huge use of it. And I love how everyone's commenting that the stream is fine, but I wasn't able to see that it was fine, so it didn't matter. So it was just funny to me. And look, now there's the message from Amber. Who else has pinged me in the Discord? Yep. Mad Cat just pinged me too. I get it. We're live. I know. We're good. It's fine. Chrome overheard me talking about RAM and wanted more. Zerno said, I was only at 70% RAM utilization. I'm not going to talk about how many Chrome tabs I have open because we're not here to make those types of you know, I don't know, claims and just rudeness. You know, I don't need to be put on blast like that. But yeah, the use of drones is becoming big for accident sites. But the thing is, they're only so accurate. We use LiDAR for accident sites all the time. And the big thing with the accident sites are often, if we're called out to them, somebody's died. And that's never fun because you don't want to go scan dead bodies. And thankfully it hasn't happened yet. I've gotten a scan with one from somebody else, but never been called out to the scene with a deceased individual still on the scene. With drones, because they're so much smaller, you can just deploy them. But things like wind start to become a factor. If you have a gust of wind that blows them off course a little bit, you lose accuracy. Now, forensics will use it as a means to better understand the scene so that they can get rid of everything from the scene faster. What we will do is scan it so that lawyers can understand it. Because America. Because if someone got hurt in an accident, a lawyer is likely being called. It's why my friend from college, who is a personal injury lawyer, drives a Lamborghini and I drive a 21-year-old Honda. It's because lawyers make good money. And I'm proud of him. Kevin has done great for himself. We've worked with Kevin. He's actually one of the testimonials on our website. And the guy does great stuff, helps out people, and wins the money. It's just odd, the different use cases. Like the Australian guy saying that the forensics teams use it. Out here, the forensics teams don't really use it. It's the lawyers that use it. Jonas, he says, oh, I would definitely not take money for scanning a recently deceased person. We've done animals that have recently been deceased, and that's never fun, right? When your beloved pet crosses the rainbow bridge, a lot of times you do want to preserve them, and scanning is a great way to do it. But it hurts, right? It hurts. Even if it's not my pet, right? It still hurts because these people are hurting, and they're coming to you to help solve this problem. And dude, it sucks. Like, just mentally, it's a lot. And if you've never been through it, the first time you go through it, it's a lot, man. Everybody's freaking crying, and you're just trying to hold a scanner still. I've done it, and I would do it again. But it's hard. It's so hard. I don't know. I think it's harder to scan dead animals than it's to scan dead people. But it's for some reason that people care a lot more about their animals than their deceased ancestors. Derivative Despair says, oh my god, my Sphinx passed about 4 years ago and I still haven't fully recovered. Yeah. You know, they leave a mark. When we lost one of our outdoor cats, Audrey 2, there was not an Audrey 1. If you don't know the reference, I'm so sorry. Go watch Little Shop of Horrors. I had the option to scan her, and we chose not to. We worked with some really cool people locally for the cremation. We did a private cremation. Absolutely worth it. And the people that did the cremation were massive fans of Little Shop of Horrors. And I had made little tiny Audrey 2s that we left everywhere. Every person that was involved with the last moments of that cat's life got a model. That was the way that I would allow people to remember it. And they said, do you have any more of them? I said, yeah. They said, you want to put one in? I'm like, what? They said, dude, it's like 2,000 degrees. There's nothing going to be left of it. But if you want to put something in there, by all means, go ahead. And they did share with me their most interesting one, which was when they had to do a cremation of a family pig that had passed. And they said, it smelled so good. Because you're cooking bacon, just really hot. I learned a lot about that whole process that day, and I think that's what helped me out most. But it's in my calendar. We celebrate Audrey's Day every year. But yeah, she was a very hungry cat. Anyways, I'm going to get past that. It is tough, though, because a lot of the cases where we scan people have a story, right? Working with the people that have the disabilities that we make custom prostheses for, or some level of orthotic, it's because they can't afford it regularly. The person is growing too fast. The current one they have doesn't feel very good and they don't know how to fix it. There's always something that's wrong. It's often that when we do scanning, we operate as therapists a lot more than we operate as a business. Shishuda's asking, I feel so bad for laughing at that bacon bit. Well, I asked them, I said, what was the weirdest thing you've put in here? They said, it's the pig. It's the pig. It's the pig. And I said, what? They said, yeah, the whole place smelled like bacon for like an entire day, and we were all hungry, and it was so bad for everybody. Yeah, Mad Cat says if we had a family pig and it passed, I'd be like barbecue time. I feel that. But yeah, if you do live in the Tampa, Florida area, Faithful Friends in Zephyr Hills, absolutely amazing, 100% recommended. And I'm going to leave that one up there, Jonathan, but I think you might want to delete that comment. Anyways, my goal for being someone in the business is to solve a problem. And if scanning gets us to solve that problem faster, great. Phenomenal example. Let's not use the red one because I'm wearing red. Let's use the gray one. This is the outer section of the city of Tampa Bay, the seal of the city. Do I have another good inner? Yeah. Here's an intersection of it. It's white. You can't see it well on camera. Work with it. They only had one of these, and it's a meter wide. So scanning it was really the right option. It made the most sense. Because, yeah. It made sense. We could have modeled that from scratch, and it would have taken days of time to do. Instead, we just scanned it. It still took a couple hours of design time, but it's all sculpting work. It's not a CAD model. That's never going to be a CAD model. They want it bigger. I'm going to go in and I'm going to stretch it. X and Y. And it's going to work great. We found that to be an ease of use for scanning. I looked at it and said, no, I'm scanning this. And I had the entire scan done in 8 minutes. 8 minutes, I'm done. And yep, the SV06 Plus carried that entire job. I don't want to talk about it. Every one of my nice printers failed. But the freaking SV06 and SV06 Plus on that job really came through and shined. The bamboo, absolute waste of my time. Like I've got piles of bamboo fails. Prusa's had multiple fails. Just, yeah, it's a thing. Derivative said, would that have been a job for Blender versus something like Fusion? 100% a Blender job. Yeah, Blender or ZBrush you would use that for. And I don't have those skills. And our main designer was busy. So I went to one of our Patreon supporters and mod in here, Mr. Chris Catlett, who introduced me to an individual in the Tableflip Foundry Discord who absolutely freaking knocked it out of the park. Guppy, you are a mad lad, and your work is amazing. And it saved that entire job. And in fact, I have to go to Tampa on Wednesday to go meet with the people in City Hall again, talk about making another one. Another one, if you will. And it's because of that relationship that we built. Again, you work more as someone who is there to solve a problem, and 3D scanning is a portion of that problem. We find that that is often the best way to start a business in this industry. It is not to print parts for other people. Spoiler alert, you're going to hear some news about 3D Musketeers and that we are moving away from doing onesie, twosie parts for people because it ain't worth my damn time. We are moving into solving problems with 3D printing as part of the solution process. Because 3D printing and 3D scanning are not often the solution. They are a part of an entire solution that is the wheels that turn your business. That's really all that I got. I was hoping for some more comments that we could have, delved into, but I think that pretty much covers it. There's not a lot of people watching today, which is odd. We normally get a lot more people. We only had like 34, 35 people max, but that's okay. I appreciate you guys coming out. This will kind of conclude making money with 3D scanning. I know it isn't the most straightforward answer that you're looking for, but I think it is important to look at. It's not always about the tech. It is about moving everything in that correct direction and utilizing the tech to make your life a little bit easy. Make sure to leave a like on your way out. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.